Hi, I'm Chad with Move Forward Guitar. This lesson is from our series, How to Memorize Guitar Notes. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you a way you can learn the notes on each string in alphabetical order using the musical alphabet. First off, if you like all the diagrams from this series, including the diagrams from this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Memorize Guitar Notes. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it might not be available as you're watching the lesson. But once it is available, a link will pop up on the screen that'll allow you to download it. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to download it when it is available. This is part 3 from our series, How to Memorize Guitar Notes. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how you can use the musical alphabet to start memorizing the notes on your fretboard. And this is a way you can start memorizing them without having any extra knowledge than what I've given so far in the last 2 lessons. And you may find this really useful. It may seem frustrating to you. If it is frustrating, you can just skip ahead and watch the other lessons, and I'll really start breaking apart the fretboard and give you a bunch of tricks to be able to memorize the notes and systematize your fretboard to make it easier. But this may be something you find useful, so go ahead and try it out and see if you like it. If not, like I said, just skip ahead. So as we went over in the last lesson, the starting point is the open strings, which are starting with the 6th string is E, the 5th string is A, 4th is D, 3rd is G, 2nd is B, and then the 1st is E again. And I gave you a little trick you could use, which were elephants and dogs grow bigger eventually, or Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. That can just help you memorize it quicker, but it shouldn't be too hard just to memorize those open strings, and it's an extremely important thing to do early on, like I said, because you can't even get your guitar in tune without doing this. So as we went over in the first lesson, the musical alphabet is just the same as the regular alphabet from A to G. So after you get to G, you start back over at A. Actually, when you get to G sharp is when you start back over at A, but the only note names are A through G. And on your screen right now are all the natural notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it just starts over. As you know from that lesson, there are accidentals, which are the sharps and flats that fall in between all these notes except B and C or E and F. But right now, we're just going to focus on the natural notes. That's all we need to focus on right now. So what we're going to do in this lesson is just start with the open string, starting with the 6th string, and find all these natural notes. So for example, on the 6th string, it would look like this. It would be E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So it's just in alphabetical order, starting on E because that's the open string. And then all you have to do is pay attention to where your half steps are. And a half step just means that it's 1 fret apart. So if I was to start on, for example, B and go to C, you can see that's only 1 fret apart. There's no fret in between. But from C to D is 2 frets. So from B to C is a half step, and from C to D is a whole step. And those are very important terms to know. A half step is only 1 fret apart. A whole step is 2 frets apart. And the places that the half steps land are right here between B and C and E and F. No matter where you are on the fretboard, that's where they land. And as you remember, that's because there's no sharp or flat between those notes. Those are the only places where there aren't any sharps or flats. So if we were to start back here and start with the open E string, we can just go up in alphabetical order, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And we know that going to the F, that's one of the spots that we have a half step, so we just move up to 1 fret. So from E to F is just 1 fret. And then we go a whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B. Then we're at another spot, which is a half step, which is the B and C, and then 1 more whole step to D. So it's just the musical alphabet. Follows along with the regular alphabet, except you don't go past G, you just start over after G. And wherever you are, you just have to pay attention to where your half steps are. So since we started on E, we had to start with a half step. So on your 6th string, you just have E, F, G, A, B, C, D that you can memorize, and you have a half step between the E and the F and the B and the C. Everything else is whole steps, meaning 2 frets instead of 1 fret. So now you can just start memorizing the 6th string. You can play the open E string, say E when you play it. So hit the string and say E, then go up to the 1st fret, play that note, say F, then go up a whole step, play that note, say G, a whole step, play that note, say A, whole step, play that note, say B, half step, play the note, say C, whole step, play the note, say D. And then once you go up, go back down and do the exact same thing. So start on D this time, say the note, and then go all the way back down to E. And that's really important. And then once you can do that, you want to start randomizing it. So instead of going in order, start visualizing where these notes actually land. And for example, you go from E to A, and then back down to G, and then up to D, and then back down to F, etc. Just randomize the order. That's going to really lock in your mind where these notes land. And the way that can really help visualize this is to visualize where your fret markers are. For example, there's a fret marker or a dot usually on the G, there's one on the A, there's one on the B, and then F, C, and D don't have markers. So really pay attention to where your markers are at first. That's really going to help you memorize, especially the G, A, B. That'll really help you visualize those quickly. Then you can just do that from every string. So the fifth string is just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just a musical alphabet. This time we're starting on A because that's the open string. And just pay attention to where your half steps are, which follow along with the musical alphabet right here between B and C and E and F. Like I said, no matter where you play that on the fretboard, those will be a half step. And everything else will be whole steps when you're talking about the natural notes. Then the next string is just D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Since we're starting on D, that's the open string. Then the half steps in between E and F again, B and C again. You can do that through all the strings. Next one is, which is the third string, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And I didn't mean to write that note right there yet. So again, it's just a musical alphabet starting over at G, but this time we started on G, so then we just start over at A. And then B and C, always a half step. E and F, always a half step. Second string, same thing. We're starting with the open string, which is B, so it's B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Again, half step between B and C, half step between E and F. And then, hopefully you've noticed that the sixth string and the first string are the same notes. So that just means that anything that happens on the sixth string is mimicked on the first string. So the sixth string was E, F, G, A, B, C, D. The first string is the exact same thing, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So that means with your knowledge now, you know all these notes once you memorize them. These are all the natural notes up to the 10th fret. So starting with the open strings up to the 10th fret, these are all the natural notes. And for starting out, you can just go in alphabetical order using the musical alphabet. And like I said, this is a way you can start memorizing it right now, but if this seems really frustrating to you, just skip ahead. I'm going to break this apart even more and really systematize it for you. But like I said, I wanted to give you a way you could start memorizing notes right away and understand how the fretboard is laid out horizontally, and then we're going to start breaking it apart more vertically and in different ways so that it's much easier to see. But you can start using this right now and start memorizing them, and then as we break it apart more, you'll be really set ahead. So that's how you can memorize the notes in alphabetical order. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson where I'm going to explain the layout of the fretboard. And be sure to download the e-guide. All the diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we had at least one new lesson every day.